How do you start your morning? Jeff Dahmer liked to start his mornings in the cold embrace of a semen-encrusted department store mannequin. But how did he get there? It's not like you just wake up one morning and...
Apparently I had beaten him to death with my fists.
And you have no memory?
I have no memory of it.
I guess if you're Dahmer, maybe you do. Jeff Dahmer was born May 21st, 1960, and all things considered, had a relatively normal childhood, at least by serial killer standards anyways. He was a bit of a loner, sure.
What a loser.
He didn't like when his parents fought, sure.
Well, stop fighting!
He searched for and collected animal bones, sure. He even had a pet, if you count a fetal pig that he stole from the school laboratory as a pet.
Doesn't count.
Anyway, Jeff's fascination with small animals continued into his teenage years. Like any curious teen would, Jeff collected roadkill, searching the streets for carcasses he would then dissect in the woods behind his house.
I really have become convinced that that was sort of the starting point in this downward spiral.
You think? Brilliant fucking insight here from Lionel. Red flag, man. Other kids are out playing baseball, and your 12-year-old is stalking the woods playing Jack the Ripper with the neighbor's missing cat. It's not normal. You already know he's fascinated with bones. Isn't that weird enough?
It's something to be considered.
By his early teens, Jeff became known as a bit of a class clown. In one classic teenage prank,
He called the shit.
Jeff decapitates the carcass of a dog, nails the body to a tree, and impales the skull on a stick. Really hilarious stuff here. I mean, we're talking Zach Morris versus Mr. Belding level teenage tomfoolery here.
I intend to go down in history as Prankster Prince.
But you know what I wish? I just wish that his dad was there to see it. I mean, he really missed out on another opportunity here to do absolutely nothing at all. I mean, boys will be boys, I guess. Hey, Lana?
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Next up, we got puberty. I mean, mixing in sex and drugs with all of this, I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I'm sure, maybe I'll just straighten him out, right? Like, yeah, he's good. He's good. He wasn't good. His parents split up. His dad moves into a motel.
I can't take this.
His mom up and leaves the state,
Fucking out of here.
leaving Jeff all alone.
I'm eating junk and watching rubbish. You better come out and stop me.
After his plan to lay in the bushes with a Louisville slugger and ask an unsuspecting jogger on a date failed,
A Jose Canseco bat.
Jeff picked up 18-year-old hitchhiker Stephen Hicks.
The nightmare became a reality.
The two spent the afternoon drinking together, lifting weights. Eventually, one thing led to another, and yada, yada, yada.
Is yada yada bad?
Jeff wound up hitting the hitchhiker over the head with a barbell and choking him to death.
No more yada yadas.
So Jeff manages to convince himself that the first time he beat someone to death with his bare hands and dismembered the body was just a fluke. He just chopped it up as teenage angst.
It was an accident.
After all, the hitchhiker did try to leave and go home after 5-6 hours? What was Jeff supposed to do? Surprisingly, he actually gave not murdering people the old college try. Unfortunately, Jeff flunked out of college, so his college try was really more brief thought that crossed his mind for 5-10 seconds.
Thought about it. I'm in.
But Dahmer would not murder again until 1987. 9 years. That's like 10,000 years in serial killer years. In the intervening years, he joined the army and was stationed for a time in Germany.
What happened to you in the 9 years in between?
Just wasn't an opportunity to fully express what I wanted to do. There was just not the physical opportunity to do it then.
Aw, shucks. Talk about a bummer. Imagine being stationed away from home, away from friends, away from family, and you can't even murder and eat people? Talk about some bullshit. To Jeff, this was unacceptable.
I don't see this working out.
He could handle the vigorous training schedule, the bad food, no pickled body parts, the long hours on duty, but not getting drunk as fuck and murdering the shit out of people? No, sir. Not on Jeff's watch. Eventually, he was discharged from the military service due to, you guessed it, problems with excessive drinking. Hoping his grandmother would be a tempering influence on their son's ongoing drinking, Dahmer's parents sent him to live with her in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In Milwaukee, Jeff swore to himself that he would never kill again. After beating Stephen Tuomi to death with his bare hands in a hotel room, Dahmer woke up confused and hungover as fuck. Who was this dead man alongside him in bed? He remembered that he planned on drugging and molesting this young man, but beaten to death? Strangled? A light bulb was flickering inside of his head. Where had he seen this before? This was truly a mystery. But no time for feelings of deja vu. Jeff had work to do. After stumbling down to the local travel shop, talk about a walk of shame,
I am hungover.
Dahmer purchased a suitcase.
Suitcase?
Placing the body inside, Jeff transported it to his grandmother's basement, where a week later, he dismembered it and placed it in the trash.
Garbage day!
Except for the head, which he retained a further week before boiling it in industrial detergent and bleach, eventually pulverizing the brittle skull because, obviously, what's he gonna do, recycle it? One night, while Jeff was feeling particularly frisky, he stole a mannequin from a clothing shop because what looks like a person, but doesn't abandon you or stink like a dead, rotting corpse. You guessed it, a department store mannequin. On occasion, Jeff's dad would come to visit. In some rare home footage, Jeff's father can be heard complimenting him on his new physique.
Well, you're looking good. You look fit.
Well, I've been surviving mostly on McDonald's.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Because he was, he was eating people at that time. I mean, not just Big Macs. I mean, maybe a guy or two nicknamed Big Mac? Certainly not just the burgers.
I have to start eating at home more.
Anyway, Jeff's grandma begins to notice young men coming, but never leaving the house. Strange. But the final straw was that damn dead body smell coming from the basement. What on earth could that be?
That's the smell of desire, my lady.
Who knows? Maybe she just assumed Jeff was torturing and experimenting with animals again, eviscerating them and having sex with their insides.
Shut up, Grandma!
Okay, let's see. How many red flags are we up to now? A fascination with bones and the inside of dead animals, a semen-encrusted mannequin, and a constant smell of rotting and dead flesh. Finally, Grandma kicks him out. In May of 1990, Jeff moved to the Oxford Apartments, Unit 213. Like many of us, Jeff fancied himself a bit of an interior designer, only instead of like the typical 90s decorations, like a blow-up chair and, some wicker furniture and, floral upholstery, Jeff preferred a more, how should we say, like, organic look.
Okay, who lives here?
Skull or two here, pickled genitals over there, a couple skeletons just tie the whole room together. Unfortunately for him, not the men of Milwaukee, he never did get around to constructing his piece de resistance, a shrine consisting of a large black table flanked by 2 skeletons and a line of painted skulls. A happy place where he could reflect and collect his thoughts.
Love what you done with the place.
All that is besides the point. He killed 13 victims here. Jeff's reign of terror would come to an end when 2 Milwaukee police officers were flagged down by an agitated man with handcuffs attached to one wrist.
Wouldn't 2 be better than 1?
Dahmer had met Tracy Edwards earlier that day and persuaded him to accompany him to his apartment.
You want to come back to my place?
Upon entering, Edwards immediately notices a foul smell.
What's that smell? What smell?
And stacked boxes of hydrochloric acid.
What the fuck is that?
It's a real good thing Jeff's final victim wasn't his father, or we wouldn't even be making this video. Hey Jeff, what's with the boxes of hydrochloric acid and the smell of dead people? What, are we having seafood for dinner? So let me get this straight. A complete stranger knew he was in the company of a deranged serial murderer within 5 minutes of meeting him.
I don't trust him.
Fuck. Lionel makes this Edwards guy look like Sherlock Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Anyway, Dahmer tried to place handcuffs on Edwards, but only succeeded in fastening one wrist before brandishing a knife. Either he got careless or was super hungry, no one really knows. During a short lapse in concentration, sounds like he was hungry. Edwards punched Dahmer directly in the cock chomper and fled through the front door, eventually flagging down a police car.
I need help.
Police would discover 4 severed heads in Dahmer's kitchen and 2 human hearts in the refrigerator, or as Jeff called them, leftovers from dinner. Further investigation at the apartment also revealed a perverse collection of sexual organs, 2 skeletons, severed hands, and a further 3 torsos submerged in acid. Sentenced to 16 consecutive life terms, Dahmer was killed by fellow prison inmate Christopher Scarver in 1994. But to every story, there's a silver lining. After his arrest, Jeff boasted that he wasn't a racist, having killed 2 Native Americans, 13 African Americans, and 2 whites. As it turns out, racism was the only thing Jeff couldn't stomach. I'd really love to hear what you thought about this episode, and of course, what killer you think we should do next. Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, make sure you murder that subscribe button and hit that notification bell, because we have new content dropping all of the time. And if you can't get enough, you can also follow us over on Instagram and TikTok for even more killer content.